The Strait of Hormuz is open again. For the first time in days, tankers are moving, and that single decision may have just pulled the Gulf back from the edge of a far larger war. This morning, Iran's foreign minister announced that the Strait of Hormuz is completely open for the remaining period of the 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. That statement came just after President Trump confirmed the ceasefire agreement yesterday, a move Iran had reportedly been demanding as part of a broader peace framework with the United States. The impact was immediate. In the United Arab Emirates, officials report a week of relative calm, no incoming missiles, no drone attacks. After weeks of sustained strikes from Iran, the skies have gone quiet. The U.S. State Department has lifted its shelter-in-place order for government employees in the way, although it continues advising personnel to take precautions if needed. Meanwhile, the U.S. naval blockade, now in its fifth day, appears to be holding without any reported major confrontation. U.S. Central Command says at least 14 vessels have complied with instructions to turn back from Iranian ports rather than violate the blockade line. American naval forces have also been escorting commercial vessels safely around restricted areas. On the map, the picture is stark. Dozens of ships have been clustered in the Persian Gulf, many sitting idle off the coasts of Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Since the blockade began, ships that previously docked in Iranian ports have turned back after crossing the designated U.S. enforcement line in the Gulf of Oman. Traffic patterns suggest the Navy's interdiction efforts are being taken seriously. But while shipping lanes may be stabilizing, the broader conflict remains fragile. Israel has confirmed that the Israel Defense Forces remain in southern Lebanon, holding territory they have cleared and captured. The stated objective remains the disarmament of Hezbollah. According to the IDF, U.S. involvement has created significant political leverage to pressure the Lebanese government and advance that goal. In the way, officials are publicly declaring victory. One statement from the Dubai media office read, "Yes, Iran lost, and yes, the way won." The same statement claimed that more than 800 Iranian missiles and drones were launched during the recent hostilities and that 96% were intercepted. It also emphasized that the American role in regional security will now be even greater, citing years of partnership and joint investment with Washington. Yet the larger question remains, what pushed Iran to this point? According to former CIA Station Chief Dan Hoffman, Iran's decision to reopen the Strait of Hormuz is a significant confidence-building measure, possibly the first step toward dialing down direct military engagement and shifting toward diplomacy. But he also cautions that any negotiations will be painstaking. There is no immediate breakthrough in sight. One factor appears clear: the blockade has hurt Iran. By attempting to control or restrict access to the strait, Iran may have ended up damaging its own economy. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a pressure point for global oil markets, it is also central to Iran's own economic survival. A sustained blockade or disruption cuts both ways. However, Hoffman notes that Iran historically has a high tolerance for economic pain when it comes to its own population. The regime has shown little hesitation in imposing hardship domestically. The more pressing concern, he suggests, was the potential resumption of U.S. kinetic strikes. In other words, Iran may be more motivated by avoiding further military escalation than by protecting its economy. The United States, for its part, delivered its own confidence-building measure, brokering a 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, the first such arrangement in half a century. That was reportedly something Iran had wanted. In that sense, both sides have made limited gestures toward de-escalation, but the situation remains tenuous. There has been no confirmed agreement on uranium enrichment. No verified arrangement regarding Iran's stockpile of approximately 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium. No permanent mechanism addressing centrifuge development. Those details matter. As Hoffman points out, Iran has publicly claimed for decades that it does not seek nuclear weapons, yet it has continued enrichment activity. A time-based moratorium, a temporary freeze, may not be enough. Once such an agreement expires, Iran could theoretically resume progress toward weaponization. That is precisely the concern President Trump has signaled repeatedly. He does not want a deal that simply postpones the problem. And then there is Lebanon. President Trump posted on Truth Social expressing hope that Hezbollah would act nicely and well during this critical period, saying, "No more killing, must finally have peace." The bigger question is whether the Lebanese armed forces can realistically enforce stability in southern Lebanon, an area where Hezbollah has operated for decades. Hoffman identifies this as the central sticking point. Beirut and Tel Aviv may both want a diplomatic resolution, possibly even normalization in the long term. But for that to happen, the Lebanese military would need to assert a monopoly on force in its own territory, something it has struggled to do. That would require sustained support not only from the United States but also from European partners. Israel currently controls a roughly 6-mile security buffer in southern Lebanon and intends to maintain that presence for now. So where does this leave us? The Strait of Hormuz is open. The skies over the way are quiet. The ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is holding for now. The U.S. blockade is being enforced without major clashes, and shipping traffic is slowly adjusting. But none of the core structural issues are resolved. Iran's nuclear program remains in question. Hezbollah's position in Lebanon remains contested. The Lebanese army's capacity remains limited, and the broader U.S.-Iran dynamic is still unresolved. There is cautious optimism in the Gulf today, but it is guarded. The reopening of the strait may have prevented an immediate escalation. It may even create space for renewed negotiations potentially in Pakistan this weekend, as the president suggested. But the foundation of any durable agreement will depend on the details enrichment, limits, uranium disposition, enforcement mechanisms, and regional security guarantees. For now, the world is watching the ships move again through one of the most important waterways on Earth, and everyone understands how quickly that could change.